Hello and welcome back to another episode of Index Engineering. In this episode we're going to be prepping the Camaro to remove the 427, and on the second day we're actually going to be pulling the motor and transmission. Enjoy! In order to get the engine prepared to remove, we have to remove the headers, spark plugs, plug wires, water pump, radiator, pulley systems, transmission, hoses, lines, cables, a lot of stuff. Right now I'm working on removing the exhaust headers. Just imagine, when I did all this work to begin with, I didn't have a lift, so I had to do this laying on my back with the car on jack stands. Now that we have the exhaust removed and the vacuum line removed from the transmission, it's time to remove the drive shaft. Taking these 4 bolts off will allow us to pull the drive shaft out. You have to be careful when removing the drive shaft because the transmission end will leak transmission fluid. Now we are working on removing the transmission mounting bracket. With the transmission mounting bracket removed, we now began removing the dipstick and the transmission cooler lines from the transmission. Now we are removing the heat shield from the starter, and we're going to be removing the power cables and removing the starter from the engine. To reduce the risk of spilling, I decided to remove the plug from the transmission pan so that we can drain some of the fluid out. Wondering, yes, there is a bucket catching that. I'm not just letting it go on the floor. Now we remove the header from the passenger side of the vehicle. And we unhook the transmission cooler lines from the front of the car. And we can pull out the excess lines. Due to how large the nose is on the front of the car, we need to remove the front shroud in order to make the cherry picker be able to pull the engine out. To do this, we begin removing the plastics from the front of the car. There's several nuts that you need to remove in order to remove the front shroud off the car, and they're pretty hard to get to as they're located up inside the front fenders. Now that we have the front nose off the car, we can begin working on getting the driver's side header removed. To begin day 2, we're going to be removing the 427 today, and I have help. My dad showed up to give me a hand. There's still a few things that we have to finish up to get the engine ready to be removed. We have to pull off the water pump still, remove the radiator, power steering, and we have to remove the shifter cable from the transmission. Now that we have as much antifreeze drained out of the radiator as possible, we can start unhooking everything and get it removed from the vehicle. Now that we've double checked that everything is completely unhooked and it's ready for the engine to be pulled, we push the car back and get out the cherry picker. It's good to note that even after draining the antifreeze out of the radiator, there's still antifreeze left in the engine, so you have to be careful, otherwise you spill it like we did. So after a few hours worth of work, we were able to get the motor pulled out of the Camaro, and here's what it looks like. Once again, thanks for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe.